What's going on, social media mechanics? Today we're going to be changing brakes and drums, or not drums, but rotors on this 2007 Ford Econoline van, the V8. So it's got the big wheels on it. And show you what we're going to get into here. First, you got all these lug nuts you're going to take off, of course. And there's 8 of them. Now after you get those 8 off, this wheel's most likely going to stick, because whenever manufacturers start designing this new metal and these new rims with this Chinese made metal, it's really cheap material compared to what you used to have back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And whenever they torque them with your Super Beast here, it pushes it back up over top of this curvature, which is on top of your actual rotor. And when it does that, it puts that damn thing on there so tight that you can't hardly get it out. And I'm going to show y'all how to deal with that. You'll be dealing with that whenever you get all your lugs off by taking a sledgehammer and beating on the outside of every tire. All around the edge of the tire. Don't hit your rim, just hit all around the edge of it. And then if you got to, you got to crawl underneath and get some swing and start beating on the outside of each side of the tire back and forth. And eventually this thing will come loose. If it does not come loose, you take it to a garage. What they're going to do is usually put it up on a lift, take one of those big old hammers with the spike on the back of it, wedge it in between the rim and start hitting it. That way it knocks it out from behind the rim about right there. But if you have a big enough sledgehammer and enough time, you can knock it loose all around the side of the rim. Alright, we got the tire off. Now, here's what you're going to be looking at. As you can see, this rotor is in bad shape. It's got the little ridges all over it where it's dug into it, and it's got them on the brake shoes too, so this has been wearing out for a little while now. You'll notice on every other lug nut you've got these little locking clips that's going to have to be beat up there. And the caliper and the bracket itself, really bad shape, really bad. For this thing to be 11 years old, that is the difference in American metal and metal made in China that is shipped to America. So the next time it gets brake shoes, this thing's going to have to be changed completely. I just don't like it. I don't like it when they get that rusty. And you got to think, this thing puts up with a lot of heat and water and weather. At some point in time, when this van was vibrating so bad that it would be uncontrollable. If the driver who drives this had to stop for an emergency and slam his brakes on, it would jerk so hard that it's liable to break something. And the rust holding this thing together, I mean, it's crazy. There's no way I could go pull something off of a 1970s model American made vehicle and it still wouldn't be as rusted as what this is. And that's definitely going to need change next time. But right now, the driver, the owner of the vehicle, wants me to change the rotor, change the brakes. So that's what we're going to be out here to do, and all I can do is give a recommendation on changing these calipers the next time that they come in to do a brake job. So what we're going to start with is putting deep creep all over everything, right through here, so it'll lube up in behind these studs. I'm going to spray it all around through here. I'm going to clean all this rust off with a wire brush, and then I'm going to go ahead and spray it back through here to the 2 mounting brackets, and I'm going to spray it on the slide pins, and I'm going to let everything seep in, and I'm going to go ahead and start taking some stuff apart here. While it's seeping in, doing its job, I'm going to go ahead and knock these off. And all you need to knock those off with is a little punch, a little tiny flathead screwdriver, a little ball peen hammer of some kind, and you go ahead and you start right there. You put it on the edge of that clip and you start picking it counterclockwise until it slowly starts to bring it off. And if it gets stuck, you can always take some needle nose pliers and just tear it off there. You can see you beat it away from the stud and the rotor a little bit. Put your needle nose pliers on there, and then you just wiggle it and work it back and forth, and it'll pull right off. It just take you a minute to get a good bite on them, and they will come right off here. Alright, got those clips off now. PB Blaster, WD-40, Deep Creep is by far the best that I've ever seen at taking anything off any type of rust. Spray it all around your lugs, all around the rotor. Go back here, spray it on your brackets, That's going to be an 18 millimeter. The slides are going to be a 13 millimeter. Probably need a wrench, something to break those loose. These shouldn't be too bad. If there is, you got a big problem. Let's start with them. So that's the first thing you take out is your little slide bolts right here that go into your caliper, enables it to move back and forth. Take them out. For anybody who's curious, I'm using the ATD set that I've done a tour review about, so we're going to test it out right here, seeing how it's working doing this job. So far so good. Next thing we want to do, you got a jack under it, so you're going to get you an 18 millimeter wrench to put on here. You're going to take your little ball peen hammer and beat it clockwise. If it's facing you, it's clockwise. If it's facing the opposite way, it's counterclockwise. So we're going to be beating this thing clockwise air direction. I'll go ahead and show you here. When you have this on here, you can put yourself another wrench right here, the boxed in over it. Pull it tight. That way you ain't got your hand on there and you're not beating your hand to death. And you can pull it tight, and then you're going to hit in that direction. Now once you get them loose with a wrench, you can get yourself an 18 millimeter shallow 6-point, put it on this. But now once you get this bracket off here, the same one, 18 millimeter behind it, you're going to need a deep weld for it. And it's one of those that's a bolt on top, and you pull the whole thing out. So that one is mounted to it. Let's just say welded to it, same as, alright? It is a fixed fastener. This one's the one that comes off, this one don't. This one pulls your entire bolt out. Once you get those first two fasteners off, you got this guard here, and you just pull it right off. And remember which way it goes, like that. And then get your next fastener off. Which is the exact same concept. You put a wrench on it, you knock it loose a little bit, then you can go ahead and put your deep weld on it, pull her off there. So that'll be the next step as far as that goes. But we need to go ahead and pull your caliper off here and your brake shoes off here first. I just like going ahead and getting one of those out of the way, so I know that it's doing its job. The deep creep is working wonderfully. So we're going to go ahead and get this caliper off here. Now, considering how rusty this thing is, it might take a little bit of prying to get this thing off here. Oh, nope. There we go. It pops it right off. This one is opposite from the passenger side. Passenger side comes off the bottom first, then top. So we got this one moving out of the way fairly easily. Now I just got to pull it up, pull it out of here, and we look at our brake pads. Now I didn't have two hands available, but as you can see, this hole right here that my finger's moving behind, I stuck the screwdriver through it, pried it up against the rotor, popped this thing right off here, and there's your caliper. You want to be able to set it somewhere. I got a wooden block underneath here, this to set on, so it takes pressure off the actual line. And then we pull our brake shoes off one at a time and check them out. As you can see, it's got plenty of padding on them, plenty of padding. So whoever changed these brakes before me clearly did not change the rotor, and that's a shame. You could probably reuse these, grind down the brake shoes a little bit, but it's just best to go ahead and change them. They're cheap, have new rotor on it, new brake shoes, and everything like that. So this is why whenever you go to change your brakes, look and make sure that your rotor's in good shape, because somebody's going to put brake shoes on there, and all it's going to do is wear them out and not fix the problem. Here's the one on the inside. Now that's a little bit worse. That's the side that's toward the caliper, putting the pressure on it, and it has wore down quite a bit. But here's the problem, folks. As you can see right there, all that brake dust that has been chomped up, ate up by this rotor right here is wedged in between the breather of the brake. And these are designed, they've got cuts in the middle of them, because that's where the dust is supposed to fly out at. That is where the air is supposed to come through at, and it is supposed to keep these brake shoes cool. It's supposed to help keep your rotor cool. Whenever this stops up, it has nowhere to go, and all it's going to do is make these brake shoes hot. It's going to make this rotor even hotter than what it already is, and whenever you go to stop, it's going to do nothing but wear it out. And you hit any type of water whenever it's hot, any type of snow, it's going to warp your rotors. You cannot drive when something is that bad, and that is crammed in there. Ain't no wonder these things are wore out. They ain't been able to breathe. So now we're going to go ahead and take these out and get this bracket off here. But fair warning from the factory, if these things ain't never been took out, they've got Loctite on the inside of the threads to keep them threads in place, kind of like super glue for cars. So it's going to take some effort to get that thing out. And that's why you need to upgrade to a BFH, a big freaking hammer. Now that that's off, as you can see, this is what you're dealing with. There's the Loctite, the yellow. Mounted right to it. So that's what you get to deal with when you're pulling these things off here. Now that all that's off and out of the way, it's time to see if our rotor will come off very easily. And a lot of the time, these will not come off here easy. Then I tell you what you have to do. The best method. I had to do this to the other side. Unfortunately, I hope I don't have to do it to this side, but I'm going to show you what to do anyway. You'll have to get yourself one of these pulleys. You put it in the center, right here. You put the arms around it, and then you get yourself a 7/8 or whatever kind of socket you got for your puller. You put it on there, and then you take yourself a big 3/4 ratchet. Got a Proto right there. Put my socket on there, and I start cranking it, putting tension on it. Or you can put your impact gun on there, and it will bring these things off. Whether they want to come or not, they will come off there, especially if you already plan on replacing the rotor anyway. Big pulley, that's how you do it. And now I had to use the big pulley on the other side, but this side I just now hit it with a hammer, and thank goodness it's loose, it's coming off. And it's the miracle of deep creep, which you can get at CarQuest. And then here's what you're looking at. All this right here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sand it down with some sandpaper, get all this rust off here so that the new rotor, when I put it on there, it won't rust to it in the future. These are your emergency brakes. I can't stand the way they put these things in here because they're a pain in the ass to get to. But these aren't used that often, and they got plenty enough shoe left on them to where they are in good shape, so I'm not going to have to mess with them. I'm going to take everything, I'm going to spray it off with brake clean. I'm going to get my new rotor, I'm going to clean all these studs up. I'm going to grease everything up in between the studs. That's where I'm going to put the grease at, just a little dab in each one, so it'll keep it from seizing up in the future. And then I'm going to put everything back together again. Got myself a nice new Wearever from CarQuest. Big nice new rotor. Then we put our big nice beautiful rotor on here, and we start to reassemble everything. Now for anybody who's needing to know, for a 2007 model 4.6 liter V8, right there's your part number, YH145251. Now go ahead and stick your bracket back on, stick your big 2 bolts with a fastener on, and then go ahead and put your guard on, put your other nuts on there, and start reassembling this thing.